It's called the stock market and your 401ks.
That's President Trump last night in Pennsylvania touting a strong economy. The American housing market still seeing some strain. Young American buyers finding themselves being priced out of the market as the age of the average home buyer is rising, now at 40 years old, according to Realtor.com. The median home price in the western U.S. now at nearly $630,000. That's more than $500,000 for the Northeast as well. The 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is now sitting at roughly 6.2%, as you can see there, 6.19%. Joining me now is U.S. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner. Secretary, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And we're talking about housing ahead of the Federal Reserve's decision on interest rates, where we are expecting a cut in rates later today. Would you expect a cut in short-term rates by the Fed to trickle to the mortgage market anytime soon?
Yes, ma'am. We are expecting that today, and we're hopeful that the Fed will cut rates and continue to cut them. You saw the president yesterday in Pennsylvania talking about the economy. Maria, you know, as when we came in, our economy was in terrible shape, but just in a very short period of time, under President Trump's leadership, our economy is now thriving. But I believe next year, because of the policies and the working family tax cuts, the largest tax cut for working families in American history, next year, families will see the real benefit of the policies that have been enacted. And at HUD, you know, we've helped over 1 million people so far this year in home ownership, either first-time home buyers or refinancing their home. Over 500,000 first-time home buyers at HUD through our FHA program have now gotten on a path to home ownership. And so as we see this shift coming and this paradigm coming, there's good news on the horizon. Much work yet to be done.
And yet people are still feeling strained about inflation and high prices, and particularly in the housing market. What would be your best recommendation in terms of policy to open up this market to people further?
Well, Maria, let's look at the root of it. You talk about during the Biden administration, the failed immigration policies, and that has really had a tremendous impact on our housing supply and housing affordability. When you have over 12 million people coming over our borders unchecked, unvetted, this is straining our housing market from a supply standpoint, from an affordability standpoint. HUD just put out a report and found that between 2021 and 2024, the foreign-born population in our country in just 3 short years is 6 million people, which is the most in that period of time in American history. And so we cannot forego the thought that because of illegal immigration, because of people coming to our country, prices have risen, supply has been squeezed, but we're working very hard at HUD, along with the president and other leaders in the administration, to bring down the cost and raise the supply when they're doing it through interagencies. But we need the Fed to cut rates. We need to continue to deport illegals that are taking houses from the American people. So we're very intentional and focused about it at HUD and across the administration.
Yeah. And that is the reason that you recently launched this new hotline for Americans to report any potential illegal migrant or criminal living in public housing, right? Your department finding foreign-born residents account for 60% of the growth in rental demand, Secretary?
Oh, yes, ma'am. You just showed that article. I'm glad you did. In New York and also in California, there's no coincidence that when you have unfettered access for illegals to come into your city, to come into your state, that you're going to have these problems with illegal immigration. 100% of the cause of rental growth in New York and California is due to illegal aliens coming into our country. But this hotline that you alluded to that we launched at HUD is through our Office of Inspector General. Maria, we care about the people that live in HUD-funded housing, in particular in our public housing authorities. Those families need to feel safe in their homes, safe in the properties that they're renting. And so we understand that it's hard to report things, but we have a vehicle now with our HUD crime hotline for people to report any sex trafficking, drug trafficking, illegal aliens, illicit things going on, nefarious activity. And I want people to understand this is confidential. You can do it without fear, because we want to know what's going on in public housing authorities so we can root out crime, root out illegals, and serve the American people and the American people only.
And you also recently rolled back more Biden-era guidance that you said was favoring Afghan refugees. Tell me about this. How are immigrants impacting the housing market from Afghanistan?
Yes, ma'am. And, I'm glad you brought that up. And, Maria, I know I'm not supposed to do this on TV, but I want to read this so the American people, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, understand what's going on during the Biden administration. Our HUD, Fair Housing and Equal Opportunity Office, we have taken down guidance that during the Biden administration encouraged landlords and property owners to forego regularly required credit checks for refugees, so they didn't have to do credit checks. It encouraged landlords and public housing authorities to exempt Afghan refugees from occupancy limits so they can have as many people as they wanted living in HUD-funded housing. Also advised landlords and property owners to evade the fair housing laws, which we're supposed to uphold, evade the fair housing laws by publishing marketing materials in languages other than English so that they could market to Afghan refugees.
Wow.
That was what's going on during the Biden administration, but we have since withdrawn that and torn that guidance down to restore guidance that is for the American people.
That's incredible. I mean, the Housing Department temporarily pausing that policy initiative to reform funding for homeless Americans. Also, this is being challenged by 2 lawsuits over a policy that, quote, mandates only 30% of the agency's continuum of care funding can be used for permanent housing. That's down from roughly 90%. Secretary, explain the program. Why is it being challenged?
Yes, ma'am. So this is our Continuum of Care program, which we put out a fiscal year 2025 new competitive notice of funding opportunity. It has been withdrawn, but we are not fettered by this, Maria. We will make the necessary technical assistance changes, but we are intentional and we are determined to transform this so that we can serve the American people that we're supposed to be serving, in particular our homeless population. And it's very disturbing that those that have put this lawsuit, the groups that put this lawsuit up, are more concerned about their own access, their own profit, their own political agenda, other than being concerned about the homeless men, women, and children that we have been called to serve. And so we are determined that we will put this notice back up. We will transform this policy, and we will not only house people, because the Housing First model during the Biden administration is a failed model, and that's what they're defending, but not only will we house them, but we will put the axe head to the root and say, hey, the root cause is mental instability, mental illness, drug addiction, get people treated and get them back to a life of self-sustainability.
All right, Secretary, we'll be watching all of that and your work, obviously. Thanks very much for being here.